channel. It's been some time, but we're back as usual. We got a few things to cover today. Pretty simple day. We're going to go over 2 news articles, both of them fairly important, both of them fairly recent. We're also going to take a look at a few on-chain metrics, and then we are going to look at charts. So we're going to get started, but first I just want to tell you, make sure you check out my Twitter if you haven't already. I just recently posted a thread about my thoughts on the whole Mt. Gox situation and all the Bitcoin that may be coming into the market sometime soon. So check that out. I'll probably do a video condensing that for you guys sometime in the next week or so. And just make sure you follow me there. Make sure you check out my link or my description for any other referral links and all that jazz, and like and subscribe. And let's get started. All right, game time. Let's go. First off, BlackRock launches a private trust to give clients exposure to spot Bitcoin. So let's just look at the key points here. All right. Bitcoin is the oldest, largest, and most liquid crypto asset, and is currently the primary subject of interest from our clients within the crypto asset space. This is what BlackRock said. The company, which has about 8.5 trillion in assets under management, announced recently a partnership with Coinbase that allows its institutional clients to buy crypto, beginning with Bitcoin. The next sentence is really important. This also comes amid frustration by institutional investors in the market keen to see the Securities and Exchange Commission approve a spot Bitcoin ETF. So far, only Bitcoin futures ETFs have been approved. Now, what's interesting about this is that basically a spot Bitcoin ETF in the stock market would give millions and millions of people in the United States access to Bitcoin without having to go through the traditional crypto world. And a lot of people don't understand everything about crypto, so they don't want to do that. They want to use their brokerage account. They want to be able to open an IRA and invest a little bit in Bitcoin, open a 401k, like on their 401k, put a little bit in Bitcoin, or just on their brokerage account where they do their stock trading to buy a Bitcoin ETF. And that's going to follow the price. The futures ETFs do not follow the price. They essentially follow derivatives. So having a spot Bitcoin ETF is a big deal. It's going to basically be backed by Bitcoin with the amount of liquidity that's in the ETF, which means that whoever runs a spot Bitcoin ETF is going to need to buy a lot of Bitcoin. That means that BlackRock is going to need to buy a significant amount of Bitcoin if they want to be able to serve their institutional clients. Through Coinbase, of course. Now, the way that this is going to work is that you're going to see accumulation in the background, and likely you're going to start seeing even more of the exchange reserves start dropping. They're going to be buying Bitcoin off of miners directly, so you're going to see the miner reserves dropping, and they're going to be buying Bitcoin when prices are favorable on exchanges. So you're going to see exchange reserves dropping. We're going to take a look in a minute at some of the on-chain metrics to see if this may have already been happening. Next, we are also going to look at this article here, all right? And you know what annoys me about this too is that the institutional investors are frustrated. They don't have a spot Bitcoin ETF, so now they can just go through BlackRock. It's ridiculous. Retail can't do anything. So institutions are going to come in, most likely drive the price of Bitcoin up as they start purchasing shares in these ETFs. And then by the time the SEC allows a Bitcoin spot ETF, the price will probably be so high it'll screw retail. It's really, really ridiculous. It really sucks for retail investors who don't have the wherewithal to actually research this on their own and get into this space on their own. So that's it's just something that irritates me, but that's kind of what's going on. Next, we look at this article here. This says Bitcoin mining revenue jumped 68.6% from the lowest earning day of 2022. So here, this says data from blockchain.com confirms that BTC mining revenue jumped nearly 69% in 1 month, from 13.92 million on July 13th to 23.48 million on August 12th. The significant increase in mining revenue reassures Bitcoin mining as a viable business, despite high operational costs. What does that mean? Most likely, you're going to see more mining operations start come online, higher hash rate, more decentralization, higher difficulty, all these things that make the Bitcoin network more secure, and essentially the only place that you really want to store value. Next, it says, in addition, lower mining equipment GPU prices have allowed BTC miners to expand their existing infrastructure as they pursue mining the last 2 million BTC. So what they're saying here is basically hardware costs are going down, and that's also going to make miners more profitable. So pretty easy to understand that. It says here, crypto mining companies, including Hut 8 Mining Corp, Marathon Digital Holdings, and Core Scientific revealed skyrocketing stock prices, each performing at least 95% better than June 2022. That's 2 months ago. So a 95% performance increase in these mining company stocks in the last 2 months. Well, that's pretty indicative that something's going on in the market where you're having a lot of purchasing occur on mining companies. You're also at the same time having BlackRock give institutional capital access to my cat just showed up. It's Jazzy. Say hi, Jazzy. There you go. There you go. All right. So you're also having BlackRock give institutional capital access to a spot Bitcoin ETF. They're investing in mining companies. They're going to start investing in Bitcoin through spot ETFs because that lowers the regulation requirements for them. It's really, really kind of ridiculous what's happening while Bitcoin's so low. It doesn't really, make sense other than the fact that the price might be kept artificially low like this for some time, and they're buying through other means to lower their, overall cost basis before prices really start skyrocketing. The whole market just booms. And more than likely, you never know. Maybe they would trigger that. Who knows? Anyways, let's move on. We're going to take a look now at some on-chain metrics. Sorry for the noise. My cat's making a lot of noise behind me. I'm not really sure what to do about that, but it's all good. Let's just move on. All right, we're going to take a look next at some on-chain metrics on crypto coin. Jazzy, come on, yo. Jazzy, stop. What are you doing? Okay, sorry. So we're going to take a look now at some on-chain metrics. And when we look at the on-chain metrics, the first thing that I usually look at is Bitcoin exchange reserves. This is a very, very important metric in my eyes. It tells us how much Bitcoin's on exchanges and what the trend is. And so far, the trend right now is that we are at the lowest point we have been once again in the last 2+ years. Let's zoom out. Okay, so we're going to switch over to the daily. And when you look at this on the daily, we literally are at a point now. Check this out. Okay, orange, you have the Bitcoin price. Blue, you have the exchange reserves. We're at a point now where pretty much what we are seeing is that the exchange reserves are just hitting newer and newer lows. This means that the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges continues to drop. It just keeps dropping. The supply is just diminishing. And you see here, this is since March 2020. This is since the March 2020 pandemic crash. When you go right here, you scroll up to the top and you take a look at this trend, you are almost on a perfectly linear downtrend. Okay, that is the downtrend that we are seeing with exchange reserves. As that continues to happen, eventually it's going to be like a springboard for the price as demand comes in, right? The supply continues to reduce, the demand comes in, there's not enough supply. Basic economics 101. If we continue to see this dropping and we think there's any possibility that there's going to be a demand spike, well, that basically means that the price is going to take off. So in my eyes, we're getting to a point, I think, where it's just not going to last any longer. I mean, I don't know right now specifically because of different things going on in the world, but I do have a feeling that the Fed is going to be loosening their monetary policy as we go into the next election so that the administration in power now can claim economic wins and use it as a campaigning point. And basically that'll start propping up markets and it could be the springboard for Bitcoin. But key, in my eyes, is the next halving, 2024. Once that happens and the supply gets cut by, like the incoming supply gets cut, and we continue to see exchange reserves going down, I don't think you're going to see these prices again. I really, really don't think so. I think come 2024, buying 20K Bitcoin will be like a dream. Like anyone would be wanting to buy at this price. But then again, we'll have to wait and see. That's just what it looks like here. Most other metrics are looking fairly normal, so I'm not going to spend too much time looking at other metrics today. We'll just take a brief look at them. You can see that the leverage ratio is spiking up quite high. That means that basically there's a lot of leverage in markets. And I'm just going to switch right over to something that kind of correlates with this, and that is the BTC shorts chart. Okay, let's switch over to our TradingView view. So the BTC shorts chart is pretty interesting. This is in Bitfinex BTC shorts. It's kind of telling us how many people are shorting Bitcoin. This is on a weekly basis. So you can see the amount of people shorting Bitcoin technically is on a very long-term downtrend. That's what's happening here. You can also see that this moving average here, the aqua one, that is the, hang on one second, that is the 100 exponential moving average. All right, so the 100 EMA is this aqua moving average. Now what's interesting about this moving average is that you can kind of see that it tells us a story. It tells us that when shorts start rising and get to the point of hitting this moving average, we usually have shorts drop significantly. That's happened once here. It's happened once here. We went over it one time here during like last year when we really started having the big downtrend from 60K. But now what we're seeing is looking a lot more like these areas, right? Where we came up and we touch, right? We touched it once here. We already had that drop. We're starting to touch it here again. So I have a feeling that what you're going to see from here is that shorts really start dropping. As shorts start dropping, well, they're selling, like they're buying back Bitcoin to cover their shorts, right? That's how short positions are closed, which means that the price would relatively go up. So one other thing that you should just really keep in mind, this BTC short chart tells me that it is reaching a point where we might see the amount of shorts start significantly dropping, and that could be something triggers the price of Bitcoin to jump and shorts start getting liquidated, and then they just start covering their shorts, and that will cause the price to jump. You see that the leverage ratio is so high, well, that means there's a lot of leverage in the market. So it could mean that a lot of that leverage is still probably people shorting Bitcoin. So keep that in mind. Let's move on now to the Bitcoin chart. All right. This is just the traditional Bitcoin chart, and this is on the weekly. And what you can really see here on the weekly that's kind of interesting is that we did bottom out under the 70 or under the 30 level, and that basically tells us that we may have hit our bottom here. This would have been sometime in June 2022. So for the last couple of months, it looks like we've been recovering from a bottom. We also just had a bullish cross. Now, this means that the moving average is starting to cross back over, and if that happens, it's indicative that the price is moving up, and we're starting to see that. So, okay, so on the daily, you can really see the pattern that I've been following. All right, I've posted this on Twitter. You've seen it a few times, so I'm going to very quickly explain it to you if you have not gotten all the details, okay? Pretty much what we're seeing here is an ascending triangle. You can kind of see this triangle in the background. I'm using horizontal lines for it, but you can see the triangle there, right? That is the triangle. Now, pretty much what's happening is we've been sticking within this triangle for price movement. That's telling us we have a top and a bottom, right? We hit the top here, you know, and the bottom keeps rising. Now, what's interesting about these patterns is pretty much half the time they can lead to the downside, half the time they can lead to the upside. Usually, continuation patterns have a little bit of a higher chance to lead to the downside if you're just looking at the pattern, but we got to look at the economic climate too. And if it looks like markets are on the map to recovery, it looks like things are moving in that direction, which it does right now, well, then it's very possible that even if we go into a recession or something like that, asset prices will start rising significantly again. And if asset prices start rising, Bitcoin's going to start rising right alongside them because, let's face it, it's like the best asset you could own. You know, if you're looking for something for the future and not trying to, you know, just make profit overnight. You know, so pretty much what we are seeing here is that now we are starting to reach the top of this pattern. I still think there's a good possibility that we come back and touch this 22.7K area. So if we zoom in now, you can see that I have two trading zones, and I'm actually going to switch this over now to the 4 hour. So you can see that we have two trading zones, all right? These trading zones kind of tell us where we've had the most price movement. And you see here, one of them is between 22.8K to 23.6K. The other one is from 20.3 to 21.3. Well, we've put in a ton of volume in this purple area, right? In this trading channel. Now we've gotten above that. We got support on it once, but I think that at the very least, we could come back and test this. And that's about 23.6. It's about close to $1,000 lower than where the price is now, like roughly, like more like 700, but whatever. So I think that's a possibility. Keep that in mind. Coming down to around 22.6 is also highly possible. So I have orders down there just waiting in case we come back into this area of the pattern. What we really want to see now is how we interact with exactly where we are, 24.3. We are there right now as I'm recording. 24.3 is a key area. That's where the 20 exponential moving average is on the 4 hour. We bounce up from that 20 exponential moving average, well, we could definitely see a move like this, right? We could definitely see us taking back 25K, maybe even starting hitting 26K, and then our regression channel will become our support, right? We will also have support at this very level, 24.3. So these are very critical levels to look at because we may not be there much longer, and we have had the trend of bouncing off that 20 exponential, and we are testing it as we speak. So keep that in mind. All right, that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. As far as when is it just going to massively shoot up, it's very hard to predict that based on this current pattern. What we really want to see is how does it interact with this area of the triangle, right? If we start coming down below the 22 or 22.8 level, below this trading zone, well, then I'm going to be expecting a free fall right down to around 20.3 to get support on top of this support zone sitting below us. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And then we might have more trading between 21 and 22. So we don't know 100% yet until we see what happens where the price is right now. Like literally over the next 2-3 days. That's going to tell us, are we going to start breaking out of this, or are we going to consolidate a little bit longer, giving some more accumulation time and, time to add volume to this 20,000 range. So keep that in mind. That's what I'm looking at with Bitcoin right now. And one of the key things that's really been standing out to me for a long time is what's happening on the daily chart. If you look at the daily chart, we have a very, very long-term bear pattern. All right. So if you look at on the RSI, so look at the bottom here. Okay. You take a look at this and you will realize exactly what I'm talking about in just a minute. So you see, let's just choose this top as our RSI baseline, right? And we start drawing a line and moving down. And you want to have that line hit as many contact points on your moving average as possible. In this case, on your RSI as possible. Now, what you end up seeing is that we've been in this very bearish long-term downtrend pattern that we have broken. And now it's very key on the RSI that we see support where the only place you'd expect to see it, the 45 level. All right, that's the blue line going across the middle. This is telling me that pretty much everything I'm looking at is showing that we may have bottomed out already. And that bottom is now being recovered from. That doesn't mean we're just going to shoot up once again. It means that if we've bottomed out, you most likely will not get chances to buy below 20,000 again. More than likely, your lowest possible prices will be somewhere in the 21,000 range if we even hit there. And even more likely, we could just slowly consolidate, come back to this 45 level, and then have a jump off. So keep that in mind. This RSI, flipping out of this RSI pattern is a big, big deal because it might be telling us that, a longer than 12-month trend is ending. So keep that in mind. We want to really see how this plays out and see if we have some more contact points as we start coming down. Do we truly stay above this trend line? And if we do, it's a good indication that not only have we already bottomed, but the recovery is in effect. All right, that's what I'm seeing for Bitcoin right now. I have a feeling that this is going to be a great couple of months. It's just going to be accumulation time. If we do end up having some chances to buy, we're going to figure them out on this channel and we're going to figure out levels. So make sure you follow, make sure you come back. Let's move on to EGLD. All right, with EGLD, we are looking at something also very interesting. We were in this consolidation pattern. It's a multi-month consolidation pattern. And now what's happening with this consolidation pattern is that we have not only moved above it, but we haven't even come down and tested it yet. We look like we are riding the 20 exponential moving average. So if the rest of the markets, mainly Bitcoin, if the Bitcoin market continues rising, it's a good chance that we aren't going to see people liquidating assets like EGLD that have a lot of promise and have a lot of great technology. More than likely, you will start seeing assets like this start getting more investment, more accumulation, less selling, driving up prices. So I think that we are at a point now where we could see a bounce from here at the 62 level and start going up towards around 77. I'm fairly certain that once we hit 77, maybe even 74, we're going to start seeing resistance. So what I would really be doing if you're trying to short-term trade EGLD, if you're looking for that upside, then basically that may be a good, long position to do. A short position here, I would only do if I start seeing the price go below $61. If we drop below 61, there's a good chance that we're going to come down to around 55-ish. That could be good. I don't mess with leverage, so it doesn't really matter to me, but I just thought I'd mention it to you. This to me looks like we are now on, it doesn't look, that's exactly what it is. We are now on top of this triangle pattern. We're hitting the 20 exponential moving average, and we need to see, are we going to come down and test this? If we do, that means a drop back to 58. And if we bounce from there, that's pretty amazing. If we bounce right off of this 20 exponential moving average, even more bullish. And I could see us being back into the 70s very, very quickly. And more than likely, that would correlate with Bitcoin having a jump past 25, 26K. So keep that in mind. I'm still accumulating here, but I haven't bought at the 62 level yet. The last time I bought was around 58, 59 when we were still down here. So I've just been watching it for a little bit to see if it dips again. Can I get some a little bit cheaper? But at this point, it's like you're not saving a ton of money because the price of EGLD is fairly low anyways. So it's like you can really accumulate where you want. It's a great time to do so. The daily chart is also showing us that the RSI is starting to come back down towards this 45 level. So I would love to see the price come down and just touch this $58 level, hit the top of our triangle, which would level out the RSI at 45 and give us more room to go to the upside on the next leg up. At this point, I'm not seeing any reason to believe that eGold's going to crash. It just doesn't really add up. I don't see why something like that would happen. I don't know why the price would drop significantly at this point. I think the only reason something like that could happen is if the overall crypto markets, mainly Bitcoin, has a big correction. So that's really why you got to watch the Bitcoin TA first, because it helps to identify what's going on in the broader market and how that may affect eGold. Now, the only somewhat bearish thing that I'm seeing on eGold right now, also only on the daily, we're not looking at shorter time frames. I'm looking at longer time frames for eGold because we're looking at shorter time frames for Bitcoin. What I'm seeing here on the RSI is that we're starting to look like we may have a bearish divergence or a bearish cross on the MACD. Now, if we do see that bearish MACD cross, that could correlate with the price coming back down to around 58 and bouncing off the top of this triangle. Now, if that was to occur, all right, the day is August 14th. This triangle technically ends on August the 20th. So I would expect a move to occur sometime in the next 3 days, which is exactly what I said for Bitcoin. So I think both of these things are right on the edge of a move occurring, and we're starting to see that in the charts. The charts are telling us that we're at springboard point, right? We're at a decision point. Market's going to decide which way we're going to go, and we're going to follow that direction. So keep it in mind. That's what I'm watching. I may accumulate a little bit more. Heck, maybe even right after this video. This might just be a good time to buy, because if we bounce off that 20 and we just go up to like 75 or 72 even, I'm going to be like, now I got to pay $10 more per eGold. So I'll probably pick up an extra few and just hang on. Anyways, that's pretty much it, you guys. I mean, there's not a ton to show right now. The last few days have been fairly slow as far as market movement. We've been pretty steady, and I gave you most of my other updates in Twitter. So make sure you check out the Twitter. Make sure you check out my threads and the stuff I'm posting on there. I think it'll give you a lot of good info. I try not to post a ton of junk, even though we talked a little bit about Satoshi being from the future. That was a fun conversation some of us had. Anyways, that's everything for today, you guys. We kept it kind of short, 22 minutes, not too long. I may edit this down just a little bit more and try to keep giving you shorter, more concise videos like this. Let me know if you prefer that, and hopefully I can start doing it more often. I apologize, I've not been cranking videos out as much as I could. Life takes priority, you know how it is. So anyways, that's everything for today. I will catch you guys the next time, all right? Peace.